Welcome, this is Jelle, growing bonsai, and will you look at this pine. In this video I'm going to put this pine in a pot, going to wait until fall, maybe early winter, and I'm going to wire this out until I finally have a fully styled pond. It is windy, so I'm not going to explain very much right now. The idea with this tree eventually will be that this becomes a semi-cascade tree, pretty much like this. The lower branch is going to come down a little bit more. The middle branch here, I should put this pot away, is going to come into this zone. And the top, I'm going to take the yin off, I'm going to bend it down a little bit. I'm going to get 2 or 3 petals up on top. Let's get this into a new pot. Let's get it to root and I'll start styling it. When you pull a pine from a pot and the root ball looks like this, you can be very, very happy. This is all mycorrhiza. This is a fungus and it lives together with the roots, and actually it brings nutrients into the root ball and into the roots. So this is really good to find, and when you're repotting a pine like this, make sure you bring a few pieces of the very healthy mycorrhiza back into the pot. It will aid tremendously in the recovery afterwards. You see the root tips here, very healthy. This pine is very happy, very healthy, can go into a new pot and yeah, continue growing for the year. Right, it's in a new pot and I have gained maybe 7-8 centimeters of trunk line. Was in the pot up to here, and look at that, there's all trunk here, just this one root that's coming up, but there's lots of roots underneath it. So in the next repotting I can just cut this off, and for now it's a nice anchor point. Going to fill this up. I've added some of the old substrate of the pot into the new substrate, and then I'll just put it back in the sun and let it grow for the season. And in fall or winter, if this pushes well, it should be ready to style. Looking forward to that. A year later, time to get this wired up. But first I'm going to remove all the old needles. You can see that the old needles are a lot longer than the newer needles. That is because this has not been fertilized all that much. I'm just going to open it up. I'm going to leave the last 5 or 10 needles on each crown, and then it's ready to wire out. Now with the whole tree cleaned, it is time to start thinking design and wiring. What I'm hoping to do, this straight section, I want to bend. There's a yin here in the back and there's this root that sticks up here. And I'm going to put a tension wire underneath this piece of wood in the hope that I can twist this down in a bit of a curve and then bring this forward a little bit. Next to that, this branch is also quite straight and I'd like to try to get some movement in it. One part is that I'm going to take this point and bring it up to this yin. This yin is not going to stay long term, but for the sake of this tension wire I'm going to leave it on. Now I have some thick copper wire here. I'm going to put that around these branches all the way up to about here and there. This is not going to put the shape in, I think. I'm going to try, but I think it is not strong enough and I don't want to use much thicker wire than this. So it will at least give me anchor points, and then here at the end I can put a little bit more natural movement in using the wire. So let me put that wire on. thick copper wire, it is important to not bend it too much before you put it on, because the more you work it, the harder the wire becomes. I do still have to unwind it a little bit to see how much I'm going to need. Quite a bit, I would say. So roughly here is what it's going to go. I'm going to go around the trunk, and then I'm just going to loop it around this branch and that branch all the way up to here. This wire is way too long. I'm going to shorten it. Otherwise I'm going to work the rest of the wire too much as I'm bending it. Just like that. And now it's a matter of putting the wire on. I don't think it's going to do all that much, but who knows, might be lucky. No, not really. Just a tiny little bit, but now I can quite easily put a tension wire here, either to here or to there, and shorten this distance. Pull and put tension, pull and twist, pull and twist, pull and twist. The tension wire going from here to the gin here has done two things. First of all, this branch has come up substantially, so now I can start bending this down again, but also this top has come down, and therefore this angle has become less of a tip, and now it's just a loop. And when I start wiring, I can bring this forward and down, and it looks fairly natural. Now the next point is here. I'm going to put a little bit of wire. I'm going to connect it to the wire here in the back. And you can't see really what I'm doing there, so I'm just going to do it and start putting tension on it and see whether I can actually bend this section, pulling, well, basically shortening this distance here, and therefore hopefully this will come forward a little bit. I don't think I still need to bring it down more. And keep in mind, you don't bend with the tension wire, you just hold it in place with the tension wire. The bending you do either by pulling the tension wire, so yeah, that is in a way bending by tension wire, but better by just bending the branch and then you tighten the tension wire to hold it in place. Right, last night I stopped wiring at some point, and now it's time to continue. What you can see now, I have wired out some of the main branches and roughly positioned them. So now here, this odd bend that was in the trunk is now followed up with a few more bends down below. Here I've created a curve in the branch, brought this branch down, allowing for a pad to be formed. This I'm probably going to cut down considerably, make it a lot shorter. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and maybe a 7th foliage pad on this tree. Now it's just a matter of wiring it out. Thin copper wire will do. first styling is done. I am not completely happy here with the top of the tree. You see everything moves into that direction except for the top of the tree here. However, over time I expect some buds to pop here or here on these branches. And once that happens, I can prune this back further and the top will really be here just off balance. Now the highest point is pretty much directly over the base of the tree, which is a little bit odd with a tree that really moves to the right of the pot. But it's plucked, it's wired, it is stable in the pot. I'm going to fertilize it, then I'm going to put it outside in the garden and let it wait for spring. And at some point I'm going to edit the whole video, and I hope that at that time the tree has started to push. But you'll notice that in a couple of seconds, because either this is it and I wish you a very good spring. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Or now a shot of the tree, what it looks like with the candles pushing. You might notice here, this branch, it cracked substantially when I bent this, so it might be broken. This might die off. I hope it will survive. A cracked branch is not always a dead branch. Now, other things that you might notice is here these acute angles and these curves. It is not pretty. The same here and the same there. On the other hand, that is not a character of the tree, so I've tried to put a few more of the acute angles in the tree as well. And you see that everywhere now you get very tight curves in line with what's happening in the trunk. Still a little bit undecided what the front exactly will be. Might be rotated a little bit. This of course is going to be removed, but there's a tension wire here now keeping this top in check. I don't see any tufts that have died over winter. This is doing quite well. And of course with a big tree like this, working in a small space, you really get a distorted view of the tree. Now if you have zoomed in and you see this, now you very clearly see that all of these are really created as individual layers in the tree. And yeah, from the previous angle you really get the feeling that this is a very messy tree. But as you can see from a full frontal zoomed in, this is actually pretty decent now.